I guess, posed. There's probably more than 5, but I think the big 5 are kind of
Matthew Bruni posed the question on 3 where he went over kind of like the 5 questions for LSU's defense, which is going to be a talking point until you see it in, 34 days against USC in Las Vegas. So that's why while we're still kicking the tires on not seeing them play yet or even seeing them practice, I believe it opens up Wednesday. Media will be there Thursday, and so you'll finally get eyes on the athletes. But until then, it's still talking season.
Yep. And so the first question that was posed in this article was, how much will freshmen contribute to the team this year? Obviously, you saw freshmen last year contribute. Every year, freshmen are a part of, championship teams. Every year, freshmen are supposed to step up and, kind of make their mark. Who do we think is going to be? Whit Weeks played last year. Ashton Stamps played last year. Cornerback and defensive lineman would be the 2 positions that you would imagine you're going to see some of the young guys play because of need. I think mostly on the defensive line because they're going to try to rotate in and out. Who do y'all think?
I have an early pick for this, but obviously, and I think you could throw almost Whit Weeks into this conversation because of what happened last year where he gets his first start against Mississippi State and is the leading tackler on the team, doesn't start again, and then I believe it was 2 weeks later starts and is the leading tackler on the team again. And he admitted it himself where he's like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I wanted to play. And then you saw the talent kind of seep into, LSU needs a guy like that because they had no clue what they were doing defensively. But because of the defensive line and where they stand right now with not getting Mekhi Wingo back, not getting Mason Smith back, which it felt like they were going to.
You think?
And then they made a huge push to get Don McKinley and Gabe Relaford in the signing class. I think Gabe Relaford is going to be a stud. And also, redshirt freshman.
Why is that? Because you saw him on the spring game play really well? Is that why? Or you have a gut shot?
I think he's
I'm just asking.
No, he's got I think he's college ready. Like he can translate to be able to make an impact now.
Okay, but why? My question is why? What makes you think that? I'm not disagreeing. I just, he's college ready, but what makes him college ready would be my question.
He was a 5-star defensive tackle, defensive end that went to Evangel and played a ton, and is somebody that you had to got him late, but I think he's going to have to play.
Yep.
You swung and missed in the portal to a degree for what you wanted defensive tackle-wise. You brought in 2, but it wasn't the high-profile players that were in the portal. But I think Gabe Relaford is ready now. Like he's going to be able to make an impact because he's, first of all, will have to play, and then I think he'll be more so of an impact player than McKinley.
Yeah,
at this point.
When I look at the list of the freshmen, the incoming freshmen or guys that are here this year, that's the name that really speaks out to me, and it's not just because of there's a couple of things that go into it. One, you have the position itself being defensive end, especially being somebody that can rush the passer. You're always going to be needing fresh bodies in that spot, right? So I think I think the transition from high school to college ball at that spot is when we're asking you pretty much just to rush the passer, I think that's the smallest bit of transition. If you think back and go all the way back to Perkins, right, his freshman year, he's under 220 pounds, being able to rush the passer the way he did. It's an easier transition when we get you in there to be able to get you in there in that spot. I do think at the defensive tackle spot it's tougher. It's a lot more technique stuff. There's a lot more grown men strength. There's a lot more going on in the sense of you're so used to overpowering guys at that level, at that spot in high school, that you're used to making the plays. And there's a lot more, you're not going to make a ton of plays, if you will, right? Like there's even the best defensive tackles, they're not felt that much in the stat sheet.
They're supposed to suck it up so the defensive linebackers can make the
exactly. You're the black hole basically, right? Yeah. So I think that position is a little tougher to make the transition in. I think when I look at it from the standpoint of who they have in right now and from where this team is, Gabriel Relaford is the name that really sticks out to me because of what he can do and because of what their need is and how much they're going to have to cycle guys in and out of that position.
I like everybody that you have said. Obviously, I think they're all going to get some time, but I'm going to go off. We got. Oh, that's why it felt because your phone's popped up. I got you.
Okay, that's okay.
I mean, come on, I'm not even fumble door over.
Well, I didn't know what was going on over there, but now I see it. Yeah. Okay, that's an excuse. I can tolerate that.
Kangaroo court.
I'm going to go in the secondary, right? I'm going to go in the cornerback position. I think you're going to have some veteran guys start, obviously guys who have been there and have been around, but if you look at if you look at Corey Raymond's history, historically, Corey Raymond coaches these guys up really well. Not just recruits them, but coaches them up really well once he gets them on campus. And you see freshmen get some valuable time, maybe by the end of the year being counted on as that guy in the secondary. So I see some of these freshmen that you had come in. I think P.J. Woodland was the other one, and your boy who you love the most.
Bernard Causey.
Like, I know he didn't come in as that most highly touted guy, but we've seen before the most highly touted guy coming in doesn't always become the best guy. The guys you want to be there that has a dog in him, that has, hey, I'm going to compete with you, and it doesn't matter how much better you think you are than me, I'm going to stop you. Those guys play. He feels like he's got that personality. So I can see one of those two guys becoming a fixture in the secondary, defensive secondary.
Give me the guy that can find Rashard Robinson and put him at corner when he's a 3-star, but he's 6'2" and built like a Corey Raymond corner. These guys, like J. Mitch has said, and it is right, that they are light. And you'll have to see what kind of goes on through spring and fall. And when you're 30 days away. If you're 167 pounds, hopefully when you update it, it's 180 pounds. But at that weight, it's going to.
Hopefully, it's about 190 pounds.
Yeah, well, Moffitt's at A&M, so we'll see. But those are things that are a concern whenever you just look at like strictly just the numbers of it, where you're like, that's light. But skill-wise, good.
Yeah, man. Like if I'm thinking about it, like if you're 160, 165 pounds, if I'm literally just looking at a roster sheet and that's what it says,
It popped out to you.
yeah, like if I'm looking at it from I'm game planning against you, and I know that this person who it says is 160 or 165 pounds is on the field a bunch. I want to pull up film and I want to see what is it that he does and why is he on the field so much, because that's someone I want to continue to. I mean, remember, dude, this is a physical game and there's a lot of pounding that goes on. So if he's on the field, he can't help himself, dude. It's unbelievable. If he's on the field, like I'm thinking to myself, how much can he take? Like, how many times can we run into him? How many times is he going to get back up? How willing is he to stick his neck in there? So that's somebody that I will go for. And if I'm on the other side, if I'm coaching that guy and that's what he actually is, I'm thinking, all right, how much can we use him? How little can we use him? How can we, I won't say hide him, but not put him in the situations to where that becomes an issue, because it is an issue.
Well, that's the other conversation too, is you talk about how physical the game is. Corey Raymond loves physical corners. He loves to play press man, and, hey, we're going to put you on there, and you're going to be really good, and you're going to stop them, and you're going to be aggressive. Like, that also goes into it, right? If you're not –
A couple island boys.
Exactly, and if you're not physically strong enough to be able to withstand that – because, dude, these receivers now are enormous, right? Like, they're not just like, hey, we're going to go and be crafty and just beat you off the ball with our routes. We're going to – sometimes they're going to run right through you. And so if you're not able to hold up on that, are you going to be able to play there down after down after down? Who knows? But that's going to be another.
Yeah, I also don't think too, like when it comes to Corey's style of coaching and Blake's style of coaching and what they've done in the past. Listen, a lot of that's going to be predicated on what they're able to do up front, what kind of pressure they're able to get up front. Because look, I don't care if you got all 5 stars and all this. Nobody's shadowing anyone for 5 to 6 seconds, right? If they got all kind of time, sooner or later they're going to get open. And I don't care how good your defender is. So with that being said, is a lot of what they're going to be able to do on the back end is going to be predicated by how good they are on first down, how good they are at getting you a 3rd and long, how good they are at rushing the passer, how well they can play up front to kind of put them in those situations where it's more predictable pass downs, if you will. And I think that's going to have a lot to do with what they're able to do on the back end this year.
Most of these questions are going to revolve around the defensive side, like Lloyd said, because that is the biggest unknown, right? Not saying they're not talented, not saying that the coaches aren't good. It's just, hey, it's a whole new coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball. So we don't really know how that's going to react. Another question is, if you remember, not only did LSU give up a ton of 3rd downs in the 50%. Passing game, right? Yeah, not great.
That's terrible.
But
almost impossible.
They got gashed a lot on the ground, right? And that's in part due to having not a lot of depth in the defensive line, not being able to rotate these guys in, them kind of getting blown off the ball. Linebackers already kind of a step back, and now you have the offensive lineman not only blowing the defensive lineman off the ball, but getting to the second level and start getting the hands on the linebackers, which leaves the safeties to be the last man standing. And if you want your safeties making tackles against running backs all the time, that's not a great look. But You still need them to tackle, and that is a question. Are the safeties going to be more the word is, are the safeties
better position?
Not necessarily a better position, but willing to be able to go out there and stop the run when needed, because that is obviously part of
the most interesting
scheme.
part of that question is because of the Toviano situation,
right,
which is still in the wind and not what LSU needed at the moment. And
what's that? Have we heard anything about that?
No, but it'll let due process play out.
I'm not gonna comment until the investigation is completed.
That's right.
I'm sure
ongoing investigation.
That is what they're saying, I imagine.
And then you have Zach Alexander coming off an ACL, and you don't know how he's going to respond to that. Some people bounce back, some people don't. But that's what leads me to, is this another situation for Sage Ryan where he has to move positions again, where you need him either in the nickel or at a corner spot whenever he's been here for, I think this is his 5th year, feels like it, and he still has yet to play the same position. I think
that with that experiment, I think they're going to have him at safety. I really do. I think that you have enough in the secondary, because if you remember, Toviano really came in as a safety, not a cornerback, right? And so I think
that speaks to the lack of depth at the position.
That's my point, though. So I think ultimately you've brought in some other guys, right, that you can play on the outside. So I think you're going to give them that shot, and you're going to say, okay, Sage, you go play safety. You came in, you're an athlete. You're supposed to be really good. You've shown flashes. Go out there and play one position. We're not going to screw you up, and go out there and play ball.
Yeah, I also think, too,
for me, he did flirt with the portal.
He flirted with it.
I think for me, too, when you have a lack of depth at the cornerback position, if y'all can stay with me when I say this, I think it's one of those situations where, well, if I don't have depth, like think about basketball. If I ask you to play man-to-man defense all game up and down the court, that shit's tiring. Right? So if I'm thinking about playing a lot of man-to-man, in-your-face type of bump and run coverage and all that stuff, that's tiring. But if I don't have the quote-unquote upper echelon of talent, it makes it harder to do that. So when I don't have as much talent and I don't have the upper echelon of talent, well, I'm probably going to gear myself more to some zone situation. That way I don't give these guys as much exposure in those situations. So I don't think we're going to be looking, when it comes to this defense, I don't think you're going to be seeing them run 5 different cornerbacks out there that you don't know outside of, injury or something like that happening. I think that that's a position that they're going to stick with the very few number of guys that they have there. You're going to see probably a lot of the snaps taken by the same number of guys, and you're going to watch them filter guys in on that front level of the defense, and probably at the safety, at that star position, guys that can run fit a little bit better on running downs and stuff like that to kind of make that thing kind of work for them.
Well, and what's the best, what's a secondary's best friend is a good pass rush, right? Defensive line. So if you're playing that bump run coverage, not only is it tiring, but if you're not getting pressure on the quarterback and you have to cover them for extended periods of time, play after play after play, at some point it's just going to get broken down because you're just going to get worn out, right? So I think that goes back to the first question, what part of the defensive line is going to step up? And that's part of what freshmen we're going to see, hopefully on the defensive line. Hopefully they are very productive, because that's going to help the secondary.
Well, I think that's the biggest kind of question mark and cause for concern if you are like rooting for LSU. It's like you have the two position groups that one needs to be good, and the fact that you have question marks on the defensive line and the secondary is what's troublesome for most LSU fans looking at it because of what you saw last year. But I would imagine you total change, 4 new tires on the defensive staff.
Yep, upgrade.
And you got actual coaching at the defensive line spot. Not only do you went from 0 to 2, and so I feel like it'll just be a little bit better regardless.
Yeah.
But it is one of those groups needs to step up to help the other one.
No.
Because you feel good about the line.
The defensive line groups needs to step up. Like I said, I don't care how good the back end of it is. If they get all day to do whatever they want back there, it won't matter. Or if every run's getting popped for 5+ and you're in 3rd and short or 3rd and not very predictable, it won't matter. So the defensive line, you got to cover that, and you got to be able to figure out a way to have that side that part of the defense be productive first. And I think if you can do that, then we can start kind of pointing at some of these other spots on the field as the season goes.
Do you see a world where, because of the defensive line depth and where it kind of is right now, that Perk does kind of move? I know a lot has been made of him moving back to the middle, like you saw it against Florida State, and he looked a little confused, and it wasn't exactly what you wanted to see. If you're not able to get pressure with the defensive line, do you see him blitzing more and becoming kind of like that walk-down defensive end?
I think no, it's not going to happen that way. What's going to happen and what needs to happen, not only for LSU this year, but for Perk in his future as well, is he has to learn how to play in the box. And he has to get used to and comfortable with playing in the box. What LSU's perfect situation would be is like, yeah, obviously you would love some defensive stars on the line that you 100% could count on that'll go and do it. And any defense's best situation is if they can rush the passer with 4, right? Like that's always the greatest spot you could ever be in. But with that being said, like let's just say if you got to filter in and you got to rotate a good number of dudes up there to be able to get quality play, Perk's value when it comes to rushing a passer in his defense will be in obvious passing downs. And I think it'll serve not only LSU the best, but it'll serve him the best going forward if he learns how to play in the box. And then he also learns, hey, now it's time to pin my ears back. Let me go get him. And if they put him in if they can find out, figure out a way to make this defense productive without asking them to have to rush the passer on 3rd and 4s and stuff like that early in the game. And I think that's the better off this defense will be. But I think you're going to see him in the box a whole lot more this year. And I think it's best for him to be in the box.